But let's compare some of the things that would make you consider religious. What are the things that come with religion? Well, how about doctrines? Doctrines? Well, there's no specific secular religious doctrine. There are those for religious doctrines. You know, you got the Bible, you got the Torah, you got the Quran. But then apparently every single secular person has their own different doctrine because not all of them even follow the same political beliefs. This doesn't really work out. In fact, I would say over the last in the election that just happened, the 2016 political election, if you ask me, it was the right that had a lot more what you could call secular religion. Because if you were to make the comparison of a secular religion, I suppose communism would almost be your best bet, just for the sole fact that it seems communism gives rise to the cult of personality, one individual at the top, which has happened throughout communism. And this seemed to be what was going on the right. It was like a religious devotion to Trump that is still present among his base today, who are generally Christian. They're showing a shit ton of religious devotion to this one man, and it actually specifically says in their doctrine that you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to idealize any one individual. The only person you're supposed to idealize is God. So apparently this has already gone out the window, but yet we're being accused of this. And what are you going to? And if we go back to the political debate, is your political doctrine your secular religion? Well, once again, this doesn't work out. If you're talking politics in general, that doesn't really work out because what religion changes every 4 to 8 years? We vote all the time and our parties always change. Now, if you're talking the devotion to your side, well, seculars are incredibly liberal and that's their secular religion. Yes, and Christians are generally very conservative and they play their side of politics. They're trying to turn what has become partisan politics into the religious debate, which doesn't work. Like, I understand why they're trying to make that, but it doesn't work because it doesn't add up. Because one's a political philosophy, what is your politics? And sure, your politics does influence your lives. But at the same time, and we're going to get into it in just a minute, but politics also influences how the Christian conservatives live their lives. In fact, I argue more so than their actual doctrine, while inside the conservatism there is a Christian root. So a lot of what they follow is Christian related, but I still argue that more of that has to do with them following their political beliefs than their religious beliefs. Because their political beliefs don't match up to what is actually in the Bible sometimes. Sometimes some of the things they want is actually literally against what God wants. Now, some are saying sports, and more specifically Olympians, as our new form of secular religion. Those are the ones we look to. Yeah, once again, does not add up. Because there are plenty of people on the right who like their sports. Would that be considered considered their version of religion too? But then let's think back who they're looking at. They're talking about the Olympians. Well, it just so happened that the Olympics are strictly started as a religious thing. Well, let's first of all, Olympics. It's named because it was the first Olympics were done at the base of Mount Olympus, which was, in Greek times, where their gods lived, at the top of the mountain. And the point of all these people coming together and competing at the base of Mount Olympus in the Olympics is because it was supposed to be them trying to reach godly status. To compete and win in the Olympics of that time made you practically an immortal. You were a human god. You were a demigod, essentially. Because you were the best that humanity had to offer, the best that the gods had created, which makes you practically a demigod. So if we're talking about sports, more specifically Olympics, there's plenty of example that it has more religious connotations than secular. And again, what if we go back to ancient Roman times? there were plenty of stories of riots breaking out after chariot races because they'd have, roughly 4 or 5 teams running of different colors, and each fan was a diehard of their own color. So literally riots broke out. If the blue team won and the green team was pissed off because they felt like they had been cheated out, they would riot. This was at a time when everybody was religious. So you really cannot attribute sports as a secular religion because it's just been as prominent inside actual religion. What about science? Well, isn't science our doctrine? Are not the secular religious... Is not science the doctrine that we follow? No. Because science is a fucking tool. It's what we use. It describes what the world is. So that's what we use to figure out how the world works, because that is the point. And the reason so many secularists and atheists look to science and put trust in science, which is different than faith. We put trust in science because science is actually provable. Science needs all its work laid out. It needs to explain what they thought was going to happen, their experiments, what ended up happening, and their conclusion. This is highly verifiable. Everybody can test it. And the whole point of science is you're supposed to come out with the exact same results every time. Or at least very close to the same results, at the very least. This is a provable method. A provable tool that has been very effective at getting us where we are today. Any religious person who has a problem with science, you better throw away your car, throw away all your electronics, and essentially don't eat, because science is responsible for farming and growing food to be what it is today, to be as effective. This allows... Technology and science has allowed farmers, one farmer, to be able to plow 100-acre field in a day. This was not possible back in the day when you had ox pulling a fucking cart. Science has only made our life better. And it's a tool. That's all it is. It is a tool to help tell you what things are and how to improve our situation. Our material situation. So this is not a doctrine. Science is what things are. There's a big difference between the two. And let's look at the main difference between science and religion. Religion requires faith. Science requires empirical evidence. Faith does not require empirical evidence. Faith says you believe what you believe regardless of empirical evidence. So this, once again, doesn't add up. Boy, we're moving fast. These arguments are just falling apart right in front of us, aren't they? So why don't we look at the difference between religion ethics and secular ethics? For this, of course, we're going to use Christianity ethics just because it is it is the one that we live under here in the West. In a nutshell, it's empathy, logic, critical thinking. Reason. These are essentially the fundamentals of secular values. Now let's get into at least a few specifics here. We can't go through all of them, but we'll at least go through some of the big ones. You use logic, reason, problem solving, empirical evidence in order to get to the bottom of whatever it is you're looking at. I don't know. Off to me, that doesn't sound too bad. That tells you, first of all, to use your brain and think. Humanism. Humanism has always been at the base of secularism. And what is humanism? Well, humanism is putting the value on human beings, both individually and collectively. What it's telling us is to treat people well because they are humans. Essentially, use your own experiences to figure out how to treat people. Because you know how you don't like to be treated, which is essentially just about the same way everybody else likes to be treated, you know? You instead do the initiative. You are the one who does good. Because you are hoping that in return, you will be treated the same. I know it sounds like it's very much the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. But it's not just that simple. It's not as simple as just treat people the way you want to be treated. It has to do with doing good for the sake of doing good because you know it's the right thing to do, because you know it's a good thing to do. The whole point of humanism is to progress humanity. What makes humanity move forward? The bad actions don't make humanity move forward, it takes us back. This is the whole point of humanism, is to avoid these as much as possible. And finally, just the actual secularism part of it itself is to keep the separation of church and state, keep is essentially because just about every single religious institution across the board, doesn't matter if it's Christians, Islam, or any of the previous religions that have gone, that were here and gone, just about every single religious institution that has come into power has been corrupted. Why is a religious institution that is based on the morality of God so easily corrupted? Now, I understand the old saying that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely, of course. We've seen this time and time again. But when you live your life on the morality of God, and this is exactly the morality that's supposed to keep you in line, that the Almighty Creator gave to us to make sure that we live good, ethical lives. Why are they so easy to throw that away? They'll throw that out the window just to get a little bit of power. This is why I don't believe in religion, because I find that when you peek behind the curtain, it's ugly. It's really ugly. It comes to you with this: we're peaceful, we're loving, and that is the overt message. But there just seems to be so much, in my opinion, intolerance underneath religion, where they say, well, we respect all these freedoms, we respect everybody as they are. It's not true. If you don't believe what they believe in, then you are the enemy. And in fact, just because you don't believe what they believe in, you're burning in hell, based on their belief system. How very moral.